Hello everybody. Welcome to series of webinar hosted by Cognistx. Today we are going to talk about Square, which is a scalable question answering recommendation engine, specifically catering to how we can fuel the legal practice. We will be going through a little bit of introduction about Cognistx and the team, the leadership, some introduction about what the product is about and what is the key performance indicators before we head to the demo and show how it is applied in legal sector. With that, to kick things off, for company background, we have been in business since 8 years. And in the last 8 years, we have worked with various industries applying artificial intelligence to solve their problem. And our expertise lies in natural language processing, predictive analytics, and computer vision. We have a team size of about 30 working across the globe. To introduce our leaders, Sanjay Chopra, who is the co-founder and CEO of Cognistx. He's a very seasoned professional with 20 years of experience in AI, e-commerce, and software development. With a mix of corporate and entrepreneurial experience, he is also licensed Intelligence IP to Google. While Dr. Eric Nyberg, who is a co-founder and chief data scientist, he's globally recognized for his AI expertise. He's currently a professor and director at Masters of Computational Data Science program at Carnegie Mellon. With his contribution to IBM Watson, he is a trailblazer for multi-strategy question answering system. And with that, I would like to introduce myself. I am Jagrati Pandey. I am a senior product manager at Cognistx, leading this product Square with Justin joining me today, who is the data scientist behind the Square. So with that, let's dive in. So let me talk a little bit about Square. Square basically takes the tedious task of finding information from heap of documents and lets you find the right information like as quickly as possible. It is an end-to-end platform that automates the manual searching of information within your corpus of document and targeted URL websites if relevant. With the advancements, now Square uses both extractive and generative models, which will be shown at the last of the presentation with the demo. To highlight three key features on the right-hand side that is highlighted, Square is contextual, and by that, what we mean is that it goes beyond keywords. It understands the intent of your questions, and the answers related with Square would be more, it will be accurate, but it will also be very much relevant to what you're asking and understanding the question. It is pretty flexible. Like you might be thinking that, in my documents, I have tables, there is multiple columns and like very different kind of formats that is all there in your documents. But Square is very flexible. It understands various formats seamlessly and provides you answer from any different kind of formatted document or file, basically any textual document. For scalability, Square basically can parse millions of documents on daily basis, basically being very adaptable to organization of various sizes. And to now, just to understand the real benefits of Square, it lets you fetch the right information within one click, mostly within a response time of less than 2 seconds, be it generative or extractive. Plus, it also adds a link to the source document so that you can verify the answer and know for your own that is this the right answer, or if you want to research more about the answer. Data security is vital to us, and we make sure that with AWS or on-premise deployment, we take care of the data security. Moving on. So at heart, our system is very domain specific. And with that, what I mean is that all the extractive and generative answers that we produce can be specifically catered to your industry. In today's call, we will be targeting the legal sector and how our models are very precisely curated for the legal terms and terminologies in general that is used in legal sector. And to highlight the key performance indicators, our goal is to slash your search time by 80%. We want that whatever you're searching, we help you with 80% of your time to be searched efficiently and within that range of response time. We are really, with the automated classification of documents, we don't need to know exactly what documents are labeled and how. There's no need of manual labeling. Square is smart enough to understand and classify the documents from where the answers should be fetched. And with the efficiency that Square brings, it lets you acquire more business and expand your business with the existing resources, because the existing resource becomes much more efficient by using Square. This obviously helps and increase the throughput of the business. With that, I will head over to Justin to start the demo. And before that, we'll just highlight some of the assumptions for the demo. Justin?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Justin. I'm the lead data scientist for the Square product, handling the machine learning components. And I'm going to jump into a demo that shows some of the legal capabilities of Square and how it can actually benefit someone at a legal firm. But I just want to emphasize that we can fine-tune our models to a particular domain. So in this case, for the legal domain, we're taking general models and then we're actually making them much more performant specifically on the legal domain. And they understand legal terminology better, and the confidence scores and the context that it's actually providing is going to be more specific to this particular domain. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and kind of jump into the demo. All right. So we'll log in right here. And so this is the homepage for the Square platform. And so for us to actually use the platform, let's just very quickly walk through the process of what it would look like to actually upload a document. And so we can go to the documents page right here. Let's just select the demo client and we can say add new document set. And this allows us to add new documents that we'll be able to search over. In this case, I've got a zip file here that I can just open. And basically in the background, it's going to take these documents in the zip file and it's going to process them appropriately. And then once they're ready, they'll appear in the dashboard and we can search over them. But I've already got some actually uploaded already. So we can jump into those right here. And I'm going to click on this client here. And this is a content license agreement. So in this case, let's imagine we're someone in the legal industry who has this content license agreement and we want to understand some kind of information about it. So we're on the search page, and now that we've selected both of these things, we can just start to ask questions. So the first thing, since I know it's a content license agreement, I might want to ask is, what's actually being licensed? I think that's a reasonable question. And we can see that Square understood what I was asking for, and it looked for anywhere in this document specifically that might actually contain the answer to this document. And so it thinks that the answer should be trademarks, service marks, publicity rights, etc. And it shows us context for where it's actually finding that particular answer in the text. And it allows us to jump right to the source document as well. So we know it's on page number 4. If we click on this source right here, it brings us straight to page 4, and we can actually zoom in and see exactly where this is coming from in the overall document. And so you can imagine, oh, I guess you actually can't see my full screen. Let me show that very quickly. And I'll take questions at the end, but yeah, feel free to keep documenting them in the chat and so that we can go back to it. So what I did is I just clicked on this source document right here, and it opens it up in another tab. And we can scroll right to the information here and see exactly where that answer is coming from. So it also provides a confidence score that essentially tells us it's the AI trying to give us some indication of how likely it thinks that that answer that's being provided is actually correct based on your query. So if it finds something that it thinks is very likely to be the correct answer, that confidence score is going to be higher. But if there are multiple possible answers and it's not quite sure which one, that confidence score is going to be lower. And so we can also ask other questions like, which companies is this agreement between? Again, we haven't even necessarily jumped into the original document, but we can start to learn things about the actual content. And so here we see WPT Enterprises and Zynga Incorporated. And again, it's pointing us exactly to where this information can be found in the document and allowing us to verify it very easily. So Jag earlier was talking about how Square isn't necessarily looking for keywords, but it's actually looking for the intent of your question, and it's doing semantic or contextual search. And so we don't actually even have to ask this question exactly like this. We could ask something like, which companies are the agreement parties? So a little bit different. It's not exactly the same thing, but it should be looking for the same pieces of information. And so again, we see kind of the same response coming up with a slightly different confidence score based on just it understanding what your actual query is. But you can see that we're not necessarily using very highly technical language. We can just kind of talk to the AI naturally and find information in the document quickly and allow ourselves as the kind of domain experts to actually validate these responses. So we're not just relying on the technology, but it's really augmenting the existing search that we can do. So we have one other feature here with our dynamic search option where you can type in questions, which is Gen AI, and that stands for generative AI. And so we can actually, we see that this answer right here is pointing to something directly in the text. And it's not formatted exactly the same way that maybe a human would respond. But if we turn on the generative AI mode and we ask the exact same question, it's going to take those responses from the standard Square search, and it's going to synthesize them into one complete answer that retains the sources and retains our confidence information. And so you can see which companies are the agreement parties, and our answer is the agreement parties are WP Enterprises and Zynga Inc. and Zynga Game Ireland Limited. And so again, it's looking at all these different places in the document and identifying key pieces of information that allows it to actually answer this question, but it still provides that context and is transparent about the way that it's actually getting to that answer. The last thing I wanted to show on the dynamic search is that we can actually ask more complicated questions like which companies are the agreement parties and how does the licensing work between them. So even if you have a compound query, it's able to understand that it might need to look at multiple different places in the document. It might need to consider multiple different pieces of information to really answer this completely. And we see that we get the same answer first, but then it also responds that the licensing works by each party granting the other rights. And we can scroll down a little bit and see exactly where this is coming from in the document so that we know that this is actually correct. And again, we can jump even directly to the source document if necessary. So that's what we call dynamic search. And we say dynamic because you're allowed to basically type in whatever you want, and it's going to try to provide some kind of response. But we also have a feature called static search. And so with static search, let's say that you have a bunch of documents and you want to understand the same pieces of information from all of these different documents. And so if you are in the legal industry or the compliance industry, maybe there is kind of some due diligence routine that you need to do for a large number of documents where you just need to answer the same questions. And in this case, for a legal document, maybe you need to know what the title of the document is, what the agreement date is, what kind of provisions are present. And so we can automate that process on the documents and try to pre-populate those responses. So down here, we'll select our static legal demo client, and we'll just grab this manufacturing agreement right here. And so this will basically populate all of the answers that the AI has already gone in and tried to answer for this particular document. So we can look at like agreement date, and we see that it pre-populates in the exact same form as the dynamic responses were coming in, but we didn't actually have to ask any questions. And so for agreement date, we see March 20th, 2018, and we also see that that's coming directly here from the document. And what's really nice about this is that it can also standardize the format. So in this case, we know that we want the format to be specifically like with the slashes and numbers. And even though the actual document says 20th day of March 2018, the AI is smart enough to actually recognize that that should correspond to this specific date format. And so once all these agreements are extracted properly, you can export these results and see all of them in one very unique structured format way. We can also answer questions like providing party, and again, it can point to maybe multiple places in the document, understanding that this is maybe the full company name, this is the abbreviation, and then it might need to actually use that abbreviation later in the document to understand the full context of what's being presented. And finally, we can also ask questions like assignment consent required. And so this is one where the answer isn't going to necessarily be like, you're not going to find yes or no in the document itself, but the AI actually has to not only find the relevant section of the document, but then also understand what's being said so that it can answer yes or no. And so in this case, we're asking, is assignment consent for this particular agreement? And we can see that the agreement shall not be assignable without prior written consent of the other. And so this is all the way on page 33. Instead of having to scroll all the way through this document to find where the assignment provision is, or like ask these questions or even open the document at all, we're still able to verify that this is the correct piece of the correct answer to this question. And the AI, it recognizes that it's very, very likely that this is the correct answer. So with that, I think that's the end of the demo. Jag, do you have anything you want to say before we open it up to questions?
Yeah, we did have a question about what happens when there are no answers in the documents. Do you want to show an example where it tells that it doesn't know the answer?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Any other questions while we're going?
And before we head to the questions, just wanted to highlight a couple of things that this, the data that how we can ingest is either by integrating with your existing database on-premise, or we extract, or we kind of extract through APIs. Similarly, we can integrate the responses via APIs. You don't need to specifically use the platform that we use for demo. It is a platform basis like on demand. Like if you would like to use the platform we do provide, or else it can access, you can access the responses through APIs.
Yeah. And so to answer that previous question, when you ask questions that aren't actually in these documents, and this is a difference between our tool and ChatGPT, where if you ask it what color is the sky, it's going to use all of the information it's been trained on, and it's going to maybe reference the internet to try to find these pieces of information. But when you only care about a particular document and you're very concerned about where these answers are coming from, Square is able to recognize that when you ask what color is the sky, you're not asking it in general. You don't want it to pull information from other sources that are outside this particular document. You want it to be able to respond and say, I don't think this answer is here. There's nothing in this document that would be able to tell us what the answer to this question should be.
And to answer Sanjay's question here, the system does answer both static and dynamic simultaneously. Like going forward, both the static and dynamic would be available on the same page while you're going through your static questions and seeing anything. And you suddenly realize that you want to search more while being on the static page, you can just ask a question on the top and you can research through your documents by that. Any other questions that we can answer now?
So with the thumbs up, thumbs down, we can take that feedback to one, just understand how someone's using the system, and also understand whether someone is consistently getting good results or consistently getting bad results, and then we could take the necessary actions to try to fix that if we can. But also we can use that information to eventually go back and actually fine tune the models. So after you use the system for some period of time and you've accumulated a lot of like thumbs up, thumbs down for what kind of answers you're looking for, we can actually take these models, fine tune them, and then going forwards, those answers are going to be more likely to give you the thumbs up types of responses instead of the thumbs down.
And during like in the part where we were talking about static, Justin also mentioned about like, going through the answers and kind of reviewing it. So if in your organization you have someone who is doing the reviewing work and you just want to go and see the highlights of the work, that is possible to just filter and see what questions have been marked as correct answers or number one answers. And that way you save a lot of time to kind of not even going through the answer, just seeing what the answers have been marked by someone at your organization. So it is a very interactive platform that we are bringing up. Justin, do you want to talk a little bit about data privacy, a little more in detail?
Sure. So right now our system is hosted within a virtual private cloud on AWS. And so all of the data for our system is self-contained and so it doesn't actually have access to send that information anywhere else. But we also have the ability to actually deploy this directly in a system. So if your organization already has some kind of virtual cloud or IT resources, within your own company, we can actually deploy this directly in there. And so that way your information isn't actually ever leaving the system. Yeah, so to also answer Sanjay's question, in terms of like hyper training, one thing that's really awesome about the static questions where we actually have that predefined list of questions, the analogy we can use is like going to a test and already knowing what kind of questions are going to be on the exam. Since we know that we're going to be looking for providing party, we're going to be looking for agreement date, we know what kind of formats those should appear in and maybe what language is used, we can actually use like existing legal information that's provided by like content experts to hyper tune our models for those particular questions. And so we're not just necessarily applying the like standard same logic that we use for the dynamic question answering feature. We can increase our performance and make those questions much more accurate by adding in some of that additional information.
Just to talk a little bit about how you can engage with us, we are very open to have a trial on like, documents that you want to share specifically. If you have any sample document or any documents of your own that you would like to apply on this application and see how it works, we are very much open for that. You just have to contact us and we will integrate your data with the platform and show a live demo with your data. We have a question. Justin, you want to take that?
Yeah, so I sent a response in the chat, but Sanjay asked, can both dynamic and static be hypertuned? And so we can also, for dynamic search, we can additionally fine tune those models. So like we were talking about with the thumbs up, thumbs down, we can use that kind of feedback, but also if you have a bunch of internal documents and maybe you have historical annotations, that's even better because then we can actually evaluate how well our models are performing. So if you have historical metrics for, say, you have a bunch of documents and you already have some of these answers picked out, then we can go back and we can see how well the model is performing and we can try to find which questions it's maybe not doing quite as well on, and we can try to improve the performance on those ones in particular.
There is one more if we use ensemble of models.
Yeah, and so I would say for static question answering, since we're able to actually fine tune the model for a particular question and not just in general, that's kind of similar to the idea of using an ensemble of models because there's actually custom logic for each individual question.
Any more questions? So I'm going to type in few email IDs who you can reach out. to discuss with us further. Yeah, so I have my email ID and our business executive representative email ID right here. So if you want to know more and discuss further, please contact me or Cody. We would really love to, engage more and talk a little more about this and give you much more details about anything like data privacy or how my data is interacting with, OpenAI or such things. We also provide, models which doesn't use OpenAI. So feel free to reach out to us to know more and how we can customize a solution for you. And with all that, thank you so much for listening to us and attending this session. And we look forward to talking in person with you and like taking this further. Justin, anything from your side before we wrap up?
No. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.